Due to the impact of COVID-19, we're currently facing a new reality with expansive change happening every single day. You might be struggling to know what to lean into right now. Jodie Baker, founder of Heal You, has created the Corona Insights podcast to help ease your information overwhelm. Jodie is consuming, filtering, and sharing vast information from many sources she's validated over years of experience, so you can quickly stay up to date with these short podcasts. Jodie uses her natural intuitive abilities to help you get up to speed on the invisible possibilities ahead and integrate the new corona reality we are living in.
Hey guys, thank you for joining me in today's podcast. I've had a fairly interesting day, not the day that I expected to have, and I'll go into that, but I'll just share with you the main takeaway that I got from today's activities, and that is we don't need to be worried about the government coming along and trying to shut down our freedom of expression or our freedom to share alternative views, because the general public, the majority of the general public, are already doing that for them. Like, it's already happened, and the people have been trained to do that job for them. What do you mean, Jodie, you might be thinking? Well, yesterday I was just on Facebook and I was just having a little look through, and I came across something on somebody else's feed which was very mild. It wasn't kind of anything dark conspiracy or New World Order or anything like that. It was just like a little thing that sort of suggested, wow, I've got my eyes open, this whole situation with COVID-19 is happening, but also I see my freedoms being taken away. Am I concerned? Yeah, I am a little bit concerned. That's all it was. And I just forwarded on. Like, I didn't think much of it. Now, in hindsight, that probably wasn't such a great idea because, first of all, it was a trigger. Like, I'll just go straight into it. It was definitely a trigger for a few people in my family who, like, the backlash that I got for sharing this was really a huge surprise to me. I didn't expect it, and I certainly wouldn't have asked for it. But I don't use Facebook, and I never really would, as the type of platform where I want to release explosive content. I'm more likely to do it here. And even on this particular podcast that I'm doing, or this podcast channel that I've got, I'm still not even really releasing huge explosive content on this. I'm holding a lot back still. I'm learning. It's a process for me. I'm trying to learn to express it all. But at this point, I certainly would never go to Facebook to release that type of explosive content, because I know that the majority of people who are on that, just aren't at the same place as I am when it comes to this. Like, if, say for instance, I wanted to talk about one of the potential end games, which is the New World Order or the vaccinations with nanotechnology or something like that, if you just release a statement like that, that's a very cold truth to integrate without having, like, just coldly, basically, because there's no reason why anybody would believe anything like that, because it sounds crazy. And it's sort of like if you had a book and you skipped a whole bunch of chapters in the middle. So you read chapter 1, 2, and 3, and then you jumped all the rest of the chapters and you jumped to chapter 10, and you're like, how does this ending make any sense? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's because you didn't read all the chapters. And I suppose those of us who are, reading the chapters in that world, I'm not saying it's true, we're just reading the chapters anyway, and we're forging our own opinions. That's why we can handle, or why we consider these potential negative endgames that may be coming for us as real potentials, that are actually real possible threats. So I wouldn't go releasing that type of information on Facebook, because I know the majority of people who are on Facebook are just not there. They're not interested in being there, and they don't have to be. And because my brain's up in that kind of, really high level conspiracy, and I hate using that word conspiracy, because as I've said many times, once conspiracy starts happening, it's just called facts. But because I'm sort of right up there at these really high-end scary concepts, if I see something really mild, which was basically just this post that suggested that, we need to keep our eyes open because our liberties are being taken away, I didn't think much of it because I just thought, everybody must be thinking that, not saying that it's true, but had considered it and just sort of been a really bit wary. So I forwarded it on, not giving it very much thought. Well, the backlash that I got from a few members of my family was really quite shocking to me. Shocking in that I was really shocked because, A, I didn't realise that content would have been such a heavy trigger. And I also didn't realise that people who could, how do I word this? For me, if I had a difference of opinion with someone that I loved, I wouldn't dish it out to them in such an uncaring, disrespectful way. But before I let that statement stand, I will say I do understand it to a degree, because to people who haven't read a lot of the information that I have, or it's not even about that, because even if I've read information doesn't mean I'm a believer, and it doesn't make me any better than anybody because I'm reading different sources of information, and it doesn't make me any more right. It just means that we're in different mindsets. But those who haven't would, if you suggest that some of the measures that we're taking to save lives is part of a conspiracy that we need to be concerned about, that is pretty scary, especially for those who are literally in fear of their life. And, I get it. I totally get it. So I wish I never did it. I didn't do it on purpose because I certainly, as I said, it's not the platform that I would normally use, and I use these podcasts to process that type of content. But what it made me realise is that we don't need to be worried about the government shutting our voice down or taking our freedoms away, because they've trained the people to do that for us. So here I am, just voicing a tiny little difference of opinion voice, or just sharing something that's a little bit different from what the news is telling me, and the velocity at which this anger and shutdown came at me by people within my own family was astonishing. And it made me realise, wow, we are there. And the other part of it was that some people who are kind of anti-Chinese government are angry at the Chinese government for not allowing freedom of speech, and that's one of the reasons why they feel really angry at them. These might be the same sort of people who shut down anybody around them who has a difference of opinion to them as well. And that's really interesting, because whether anybody's right or wrong is irrelevant, but we certainly need to allow people to have their opinions without them being made to feel too scared to do it. Once we're in a situation where we're too afraid to speak our minds or our thoughts or express our fears, then we're already enslaved. We're already trapped. So that whole experience today, of course, aside from making me feel really crappy, because, I felt really, it's just a yucky feeling knowing that people in your family are saying things about you, and also feeling responsible for it as well, because, I probably should have thought more deeply about it. I didn't see that it was a very powerful kind of, I think one of the reasons is I think that a lot of these people might have thought they actually wrote it, where I didn't. I actually just forwarded it on. Look, trust me, if I wanted to drop a bomb on Facebook and create some kind of, something controversial, I would have been able to present something far more impressive than that I shared on, which, as I said, I'm not interested in doing. And there is one further insight that I got out of today's shenanigans, and that is that the need to be right is kind of a really major undercurrent tone at the moment. Like, I notice myself doing it. There's so many narratives and stories and things on the internet, and they're aligning themselves with different articles from experts and this politician or whatever, because there's heaps of different narratives and stories out there, and we're aligning ourselves with them. And we're doing it in such a passionate and heavy way that we feel like we're right. Like, this is what I've read and I totally believe it and I'm right. And anything else out there is hard to listen to or integrate because it's not in alignment with this information that I've aligned myself with. And actually, before I move on, I just want to say there's a really awesome video going out at the moment by Dr. Joe Dispenza which talks about this. And if you want to hear it, if you want me to send you the link, I'll send it. It's just phenomenal. It's about far more than what I just discussed then, but it's beautiful. I highly recommend it. But going back, there is this undercurrent of everybody needing to be right. And that's not a new thing. I think that the humans have always been like that. We've always done that. We always want to be right. You know, I suppose that's where that great saying comes from. Would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? But here's a really interesting duality that's going on in my mind right now, and I'm sure I'm not going to be alone in this. And that is, so I've just become under siege by people and for my opinions, I suppose, but they really weren't opinions. I just shared something and it was very mild. I just said, you know, keep awake, take notice. But I would love, there's this little part of me that wants to sort of scream out, but I'm right, you know. But in order for me to be right, that would mean, like, I don't want to be right. I actually don't want the potential end games that, you know, might be coming for us in terms of the New World Order and martial law and all that sort of stuff. I don't want to be right about that. I look in the eyes of my children and I think about all the things that the life that they're not going to have that I thought they were, you know, all the things that I had in my own life that I took for granted. And I'm sure we all feel that. I don't want to be right. I really don't. So I'm getting emotional now because it's not really what I was leading this. I was more just interested in the conflict in my mind about wanting to be right, but then of course not wanting to be right, because the only way for me to sort of shake off this, and I suppose it's your confidence, it takes a battering when people kind of attack you like that. And you want to regain it, and the only way to do that is by being proven right. But not in this state, not in this situation. I certainly don't want to be right. I really would rather be wrong. I really would. Anyway, that was my day. I love you guys. Let's all pray for Jody to be wrong. See you later.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. And if you'd like more information on Jody and her work as a self-healing mentor, please go to www.healyou.me.